ladies and gentlemen, are we live? Yes, we are live once again. How's everybody doing on this Let's Move It on Monday? And it's July 27th, and it's a really nice day here in Newport Beach, California. I'm your somewhat savvy, politically minded host, Abby Kaufman, and we've got a real treat for you today. We've got a chat lined up with Dr. Letitia Clark, and Dr. Clark is a mayoral candidate in the fine city of Tustin, California, and we'll look forward to hearing what she's got to say about her local race. And I'm sure she'll have some surprises or two to share with us. She's really on top of things, and we're really lucky to have her. Like I said, Tustin, California is an awfully fine city. So anyway, let's get a few things out of the way before Dr. Clark joins us. And you know, you look around in the world and you really can't believe things, right? I mean, the things you see. And I'm not going to bore you so much with the with the like New York Times and stuck in the situation here. Let's just say that Trump is finding out the limits of his power uh, in Iran. I mean, what do you say? He's bombing the living daylights out of these people, and they're not giving up and they're not giving in. And so what are you gonna do? Oh, and we're running low on ammo. Isn't that really the height of military preparedness? I'm sure I'm glad Donald Trump claimed to have rebuilt the military, because I'm sure he wouldn't have forgotten it possibly, uh, you know, tend to the ammo, especially the interceptors. I mean, don't we really need those? And surely, if that kind of got by Trump, surely his A1 able-bodied, what do you call him, Pistol Pete Kegseth, or Pretty Boy Pete Kegseth, whatever they call him these days. You mean those two guys couldn't figure out how to fight a war and what it would take? And like, didn't we kind of know this? So I'm going to submit to you this is another in Trump's long list of incompetent situations. But we'll get into that later. I don't want to dwell too much on that before Dr. Clark gets here. We've got a few more things I want to mention. And like, strange enough, most of what I want to mention is kind of Financial Times stuff. And you guys know how much I like the Financial Times. I do think there's a standard of newspaper where they provide information and not opinions, or if they do, they keep their opinions in the opinion section. So anyway, the between the New York Times and the Financial Times, I think you'll be fairly well informed. At least you'll have a toehold on things. Maybe not a foothold, but clearly a toehold. But looking to our kin in UK, it seems as though, and now this was not on the front page of the New York Times, and I'm always a little curious why. Seems like a really newsworthy headline to me, and this was in big, bold letters in the Financial Times. U.S. tech giant slash. How many jobs do you think? Give a guess. Anybody want to call in? 949-629-3820. Anybody got an idea how many jobs were slashed? Nobody knows? Okay, well, I am the answer guy. So, and the truth of the matter is, if I raise the question, I've got to pose the answer. So, how about 140,000 jobs? That seems like pretty good many. I mean, I've been talking to people in different, parts of the country, and there's not a whole lot of towns that have over 10,000 people. And these guys got rid of 140,000 jobs. Now the question becomes, why did they do that? Well, again, we thought you'd never ask. And what's going on is these guys are spending a cajillion dollars on AI, just a cajillion dollars, and they're claiming that they've got to offset those expenses with some cuts. But you kind of doubt. I've always doubted their reasoning, and here you have to really doubt it, because, like I said, they're spending cajillions on AI. They have, they've done really, the stock's done really well. So if you have to, you know, if you have to fire people, at least things are going well for the corporation. And I'm going to make a quick point here because I do chat with union members and union leaders a good bit. And I want you to keep in mind that without unions, the only voice in the room would be management. And just like here, there's no union. So these guys really have no voice short of what they can develop on their own. Okay, and let's see here. And how about and how about Trump changing those old trade talks and bringing back the aging but ever popular notion of tariffs that had some little part in the Great Depression? And guys, I'm going to tell you, uh, things have gotten unbelievably expensive. And I'll give you a little example. I used to love the shrimp taco place. They were really great, really reasonable. They were 350 for ages, maybe 375. I forgot which. Anyway, $5, and I had a taco, water, and I left a 25 or 30% tip. So I go there the other night. I go, and how about a grilled shrimp taco? Sure. So I get the bill, and it's like $6 and change. My shrimp taco went from like $5 to $8. And I know that, and let's face it, that's not a boatload of money, but it's the same thing over time. And you can assume that, and I mean, I've known these guys, I've eaten there forever, and I just don't think they would go up unless they absolutely had to. And for the longest time, I suggested that they go up because I want these guys to stay in business. I like their shrimp tacos, and they're more than they're just excellent people. And let's get one thing straight here: the American dream has no like skin color behind it. Okay, I think that's a I just think anytime you come to a new country, you may know the language, you may not. Depends on how old or young you are. And I always like, not picking on mentioning Ada Bersenio as my true north. And Ada came to this country with her folks. She was maybe 3 or 7, something like that. They came as refugees from Nicaragua, and so need a job, need work. So at some point, Ada got a job at a hotel, and later she kind of sees the lay of the land, and she organizes the workers into a union, which is super, right? uh, Eventually Ada gets voted to be head of the union, and then she went on to chair the Orange County Democratic Party for like 5 years. And I just, it just irks me no end when people tear down people like that, because like I said, that's the American success story. I mean, came with literally nothing, and just pulled herself out just through sheer determination. And while there's lots of people like that, it's always different when you like know someone. And at this point, Ada's one of those people in particular. But I think Democrats are much more likely to like maybe actually tell the truth these days. This I gotta tell you, this is an extremely dangerous time. You know, Trump can't bend Iran to his reality, and he clearly doesn't know what to do. And if he's got Pretty Boy, Pistol Pete, Kegseth as the other half of the brains in the room, well, you can imagine what I can't. And tragedy ensues. Putting those two guys in charge of a war are just oh, guys, guess what? As if by magic, we are about to bring you from the fine city of Tustin, California, the next mayor of Tustin, Dr. Letitia Clark, and here she is. Hey, Dr. Clark, how are you?
Hey, Abby, how are you? Good to see you.
Oh, the pleasure's mine. Thanks for making a little time for us.
My pleasure.
Everything okay in that fine city of Tustin, California?
I like to say there's no place like Tustin, so yes, all is well.
Oh, good deal. Well, I was just telling people that you are a candidate to be the next mayor, and just out of curiosity, I the question I usually start with is what made you do this? Why now? And just a little bit of how you got here.
Oh, thank you. It's probably my favorite thing to talk about how I got to this place because I really do have to think introspectively about my journey often. Um, but I grew up in Orange County, born and raised. My dad's actually born and raised in Orange County too. My grandparents came here from Little Rock, Arkansas, and lived on a segregated street in Laguna Beach. And my dad was the first African American baby born at Hoag Hospital in Newport Beach.
Really,
Yeah, and
congratulations.
so we have some history here in the OC. I went to Tustin High School, graduated in the class of 2000, and then I went away to college. I attended Xavier University of Louisiana in New Orleans, Louisiana, and I studied political science and got a job with the city of New Orleans right after graduation. And I was a guppy in so many ways. I just kind of got donuts and coffee for a council member at about 21, 22. And then Hurricane Katrina hit the city, and I was deemed as essential personnel and had to stay. And if I wanted to keep my job, which I did, and as a California girl, I didn't know enough about hurricanes to scare me into
Right.
leaving. And so I elected to stay. I lost everything. My car, my apartment was flooded. Every piece of clothing and, kind of crappy furniture I owned was gone overnight and due to the storm. And but I still worked for the city. I lived in a hotel for 6 months. I walked to work to City Hall every day. And I learned so much about what it means to be a public servant, what it means to be at the table when it matters, what it means to sacrifice and be a leader, when it counts. And so I always felt like after that, I wanted to dedicate my life to public service and be involved in whatever way I could. So I lived in New Orleans another 10 years. I moved back to Orange County in 2012 and I didn't want to not be involved. So I started volunteering for like the chili cook off and Tiller Days. And then I applied to be on a city commission and I didn't get the votes that I needed to serve on essentially the Parks and Rec Commission. And I thought that was kind of weird because what I heard from the powers that be at the time, they told me, well, we don't want to vote for you because it's a bench, for city council. So we don't want you to we pick the people who get on the commissions because we want to pick the people who run for the council seats. And so when I heard that, I said, well, that's really not how it's supposed to work. So I kind of waited until there was a quote unquote open seat for city council. And then I ran for that seat in 2016. And I ran against a slate where those same powers that be had selected who they wanted to run with them on the open seat. So I ran against a ticket. And out of the four candidates, there were three spots up, two incumbent positions and one open. I came in second out of the four, beating one incumbent in terms of votes and beating the person
Unreal.
they selected as their open seat candidate. So that was great, and that was my entryway onto into Tustin politics.
How
Um,
how long were you on council?
2016 to 2024.
Wow.
So I ran for re-election in 2020 during COVID. Came out number one vote getter out of nine candidates on the ballot, earning the most votes in Tustin history, a little over 15,000 votes, and then was appointed mayor uh, from my colleagues in 2021. And so served as mayor in the height of COVID, aftermath of George Floyd, and I literally harkened back to my time during Katrina. And I was in recovery in restorative mode, not just response mode, but how do we recover and then restore after all of these crises essentially. So I felt really prime and ready to lead at that time, and then termed out in 2024. And in 2022, we put it on the ballot for the city to consider voting for the mayor at large. So now the mayor position is voted separately. It's not appointed from the council anymore. So now I'm running for the at large mayor seat in Tustin.
Well, that kind of begs the question: when you get to be the next mayor, what's on your agenda?
So a couple things is actually to restore some programs that have gone away since I got off the council. I helped bring a program called Girls in Government to the city where we introduced local political life and working in leadership in local government to girls in our community from 8th grade to 12th grade. That program is no longer in place because I left, and they didn't want to fund or support that program anymore. I helped launch Lemonade Day for the city, a citywide Lemonade Day where kids can open lemonade stands without being cited by the health department, essentially. So we set up a program where the schools and the city partnered to introduce a curriculum to students about how to open up a business, how to run a small business in Tustin. And then we had a website where you could find everyone's lemonade stand location in one place. And the city would come out and support these kids, teach them about, money management and how to save your money and how to make money as a small business owner. My hope was to plant a seed for people like me who went away and would come back and remember, how the city supported them. So it's to restore that program. And then it's also to ensure that Tustin remains accessible. I help bring Zoom permanent opportunities to council meetings so that people didn't have to choose between childcare or a night job or whatnot in order to be engaged in what was going on in local politics. So any member of the city can join council meetings via Zoom and comment. So it's to ensure that that remains in place. Also launched an app when I was mayor. It's called Test and Engage, and it's so people can report graffiti or potholes or a broken street light, on an app. They can take a picture of it. It goes right to the appropriate department, and then it can be responded to, and they can track the progress in real time on the app.
Oh,
So there's been talks of, kind of getting rid of that app. So to my goal would be to make sure that that continues. And then most of all, it's to engage the community in rigorous and transparent communication about what's to be done with the land that is yet to be developed on the old Marine base in Tustin. You may have heard that we had a really impactful fire to one of the hangars a couple years ago, and so now that land is primed to be developed, but it should not be done in isolation. It should not be done behind closed doors. This should be something that involves the community, that listens to their concerns and their hopes and what they'd like to see. But this should not be a process where the council decides in isolation what should go there and what should be planned there. It needs to be a very inclusive and engaging process. And my fear is that right now the culture is just kind of, very limited community input, and that somehow, our elected officials know best without hearing from our community. And I think that that's not the case at all. We're there to represent the voices of the people. So the voices of the people should be amplified as much as possible.
well, that kind of leads into my next thought, and that dealing with the an app developer and dealing with this huge piece of real estate,
Yeah.
uh, that must mean you're really good at collaborating and working well with others.
I think it's my superpower, honestly. When I first got into politics, it was a compliment to be called a statesman or a stateswoman, that you knew how to work across the aisle, that you knew how to collaborate on tough, policy issues. And even though it's not necessarily, it can be looked at as a bad word now to be a collaborator, I still think it's so important. And in a diverse community, regardless of diversity of party affiliation, we have diversity in culture and religions and racial backgrounds. You have to find commonalities with other people. One thing I've done in Tustin, because it is so diverse, knock on doors and people might ask, well, how do you think you can represent all of us in Tustin? Because maybe you look different than what's been on the council before, or you have a different background. And so I always kind of remind them about what my foundation is in the city. Is that I'm a tiller. I'm a Tustin tiller from Tustin High School. We have the oldest high school in the city, and somehow everyone has a family member, if not themselves, that have a connection to that high school. And it's my icebreaker, to remind people that we have so much more in common than we do different. So let's start with the things we have in common, and let's talk about each other's goals, and then let's build upon that. But it's definitely worked for me throughout my political career to prioritize collaboration and communication above all, essentially.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's really all inclusive, and I just don't think there's any substitute for that.
Yeah.
And let me just how about Tustin's always struck me as being a really nice, safe, clean town city.
Hmm.
Is it still that way? I haven't been there in a year or two.
Yes, very much so. I think a lot of folks would like to think about it as like Orange County's best kept secret,
Ah,
or, just kind of a bedroom community. But the reality is that we're growing. And as the housing crisis, grows, people look to cities like Tustin to find somewhat of it's hard to say affordable, but maybe like more attainable housing in Tustin. And it's still very strong in community. We have a lot of community events. We have a lot of things that people still coalesce around. So for families, yeah, it's a wonderful place to be. It is clean, it is safe. But we have our challenges in terms of ensuring that Tustin will be a city that the next generation can call home. I have twins that are 18, they're both in college now. I want to know that when they're ready to start a family, or have a starter home in Tustin, that it won't be so expensive that they can't even consider Tustin, when that time comes. And I know so many families like mine. And then I have a 4-year old as well. So I want to partner with the schools and partner with our Tustin Police Department to ensure that it's a community where he can go to public school, and he can maybe even walk to school if that's an option for us, and that it's going to be safe, and that the schools are going to be high quality, and our community is going to be welcoming, so that my little African American son doesn't have to worry about walking, to school or to his favorite park, without a lot of concern. So yeah, I think it's good, but you have to work to, keep it good and keep it great. And I think one challenge we have is connecting actually the older parts of the city to the newer parts of the city, so that that community thread remains strong. So I do believe that's definitely a role of a mayor, to bring people together and to enhance all of our services so that it works for our growing and emerging, and seemingly increasing diverse community.
well, it seems like you're super at this for two reasons. Number one, and this is just my hometown is Charleston, South Carolina, so I know that kind
Oh,
of
nice. Uh
air.
huh.
And it's really nice when people just kind of get along and get
Hmm.
together, and the way you integrate them into the community. But my original thought was, in New Orleans you got to deal with what I would perceive to be a relative lack of diversity, as
Mm.
opposed to in California, where there's a nice amount of diversity.
Yeah, no, you're so right. I mean, it's very black and white kind of in New Orleans, right? It was easy to divide that line between us. So yeah, there was, but I thrived there because I did have so much exposure to diverse communities that it was no problem for me to go in a neighborhood or area that where I didn't see people that looked like me. I was fine with it because that's how I grew up. But as the
As it
rhetoric,
should be.
yes, absolutely. But as you know, as the rhetoric at the top continues to be very negative, very divisive, for someone like me in a community that I love, that I feel is very collegial and collaborative, and people come together. My fear is that if we don't have strong leadership that are committed to keeping that divisive rhetoric out of what we do in the city, that it will trickle down, and we will start to see that division. And what we know is kind of the common, outlook about what Tustin is can change very easily and very quickly. So there has to be a strong commitment, I think, and a vocal commitment from leadership that we don't want that divisive rhetoric here. We don't want people to be divided amongst party line or racial, differences. That we have to work to be a very collaborative, inclusive community, and that comes with some intentionality behind programming and all kinds of things that the city does to make our city flow.
Well, are there any other programs you've helped with to kind of help with a little more civic engagement?
Yeah, I've actually heard from some people that they would like to get a little more communication from the city. So we have some changes that have happened after I've termed out in economic development, where the city staff is reaching out to businesses to include them a little bit more on different events, et cetera. I think that also, you know, we say people don't like to get a lot of, text and calls and emails and things like that, but there's still something to be said about outreach from the city. And I'm in communications at work, so I know someone has to hear something 7 times before they remember it. So
Right.
just kind of like with that in mind, knowing that we have to be a little more proactive from the communication level. And that's from telling you about when, Tiller Days is, to when the food trucks are going to be, in Old Town, to when the next city council meeting or the next planning commission meeting is happening and what's on the agenda. So I think just having a more robust communication arm in the city, and taking it as seriously as we do all the other, functions of the city is something I'd like to help advocate for once reelected.
And just out of curiosity, what's the population of Tustin?
We're about 83,000 now. There are about 26,000 registered voters, and then that breaks down to about 13,000 households.
That's really healthy community.
Oh yeah, 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 and growing.
Well, now I've got to ask you two things. The first thing is looking backwards. What kind of experiences are driving you, and will
Mhm.
and made you make you the person you are now?
Oh yeah. Well, I told you a little bit about Katrina, and really that was such an impetus in really everything I do, even from with my family. Holidays, we don't do a lot of gift giving. It's more about, experiences, because what I realized is all my material things could be gone, in a matter of seconds, with which is what I experienced with Hurricane Katrina. So I know that making a memory with my family is something that can't be replaced, that can't be taken away from me. And so I really do invest in us making memories together. And I kind of think about the same thing when operating with the city. How do we make this place somewhere where not only people want to come back, but they have fond memories about living in Tustin. They have fond memories about shopping or working in Tustin. And how do we do it so they almost know that government isn't there? The lights come on, the trash is picked up on time, they ride smoothly through our streets. Like all of the functions that we are charged to help enhance the quality of life, we're doing pretty seamlessly. And then the other job that we have is just creating community essentially, and we do that through programs and other initiatives. But yeah, I think losing everything and then finding a way to build back up, and then finding out in my life what really matters, what's really important in life, helps helps me continue to want to do this work. And then when I see that things are going poorly in other places, where people don't feel safe, where they don't feel welcome, where they don't feel heard, not wanting to watch that happen in my own city. We had just a nice incident happen in Tustin the other day, and I think Tustin PD responded very well. And the incident wasn't fatal, thankfully, but it could have been. And so kind of wanting to be in the right place at the right time where I can use my voice and my advocacy to champion for very inclusive policies and practices. And oftentimes it just matters who's at the helm, who's at the dais to set the tone and set a culture that, I want to see in our city.
Oh, Dr. Clark, that was a huge observation. We both know what happens when somebody in a position of authority sets a bad tone,
That's
and
right.
therefore we know what happens when somebody sets a positive, good tone.
Correct. Yeah.
Oh, that's priceless. God help you.
Mhm.
Oh, God love you. Anyway, can I ask one last question, please?
Sure. Sure.
Is that a grand piano in the background?
So this is a green screen.
Oh, sorry. Oh, I'm
I'm
like,
glad it looks real enough, but yes, it is.
well, my mother was a classically trained concert pianist,
Oh,
so
nice.
when I see a grand piano, I'm like, "Mommy!"
Well, the soundtrack in your head of your childhood must be so wonderful.
I mean, it's been fascinating me for the last 20 minutes or how long we've been chatting.
I love it. I love it.
Oh, well, Dr. Hogg, I can't thank you enough for spending a little time chatting with me and
Yes, thank you.
and explaining to me exactly how real a green screen can look.
Yeah, I mean, we're getting better in technology if that looks
Oh,
pretty real to you. So I'm glad.
so am I free to ask you to come on again?
Oh, I would love to anytime. Yeah, thank you so much. And
Oh,
I
good
love
deal.
Charleston too. So, some shrimp and grits and, you know, I just love that place. Great food, nice people, a lot of
Oh,
history.
well,
Yeah.
thank you. We appreciate it. I'm still pretty proud of coming from there.
Hmm.
And my mother saw the families from Charleston, and my dad saw us from Savannah. So we're from
Okay,
the
okay.
little 100-mile area, and we
Yeah.
have not met a shrimp we hadn't eaten.
Right.
Uh,
Yep.
so, well, Don, we'll certainly look forward to having you back, and
Same here.
sooner
I
rather
hope
than
so too.
later. And if we can do anything, I'm a phone call or email or text away.
Thank you so much. Well, hopefully we'll have good news in November after it's all said and done. On November 4th, I'll, hope to come on again as the next mayor of Tustin.
No, believe me, that's why I do this is to try to get. I tell people not only do I want the dog catcher to be a Democrat, not only do I want the assistant to the dog catcher to be a Democrat, I want the assistant to the assistant. I want to go as far down ballot as I can. I'll burrow like like whatever animal burrows.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
I
Well, I
agree
say,
with you.
well, again, I can't thank you enough for coming on, and I'll be in touch about coming back.
Sounds good. Wonderful.
Good deal.
Have a good
Thanks a
one.
million. Take care,
Thanks.
Dr. Clark.
You
Bye now.
too.
And ladies and gentlemen, that was Dr. Letitia Clark, and I'm convinced the next mayor of Tustin, California. And I don't know how much that interview you heard, but it was Dr. Clark has experiences in diverse areas like California and in non-diverse areas like New Orleans, Louisiana. And even though things have changed a good bit in the South, it's still largely black and white, or black people and white people. There's obviously Latinos and I mean just people have come here and as a general proposition, we're glad to have them. Why I think our current policies towards immigrants and immigration is just an abomination. And it's a real abomination because it's advocated by people who claim to follow. Are you ready for this? They claim to follow the Lord and Savior, like what, a couple billion people? And you can't just, it's not that easy in other places to get along. And sometimes when things are like that and you're in the minority, they can be really difficult. It sounds like Dr. Clark was, uh, she's when you're a decent person, you should be. Well, actually, everybody deserves some respect and all that. But when you do things that are in the public good, with absolutely no expectation of any. I think the word is remuneration or like money or favors. Now, I'm going to contrast that with the corruption in the White House. And don't forget, if Donald Trump, if you hate Trump, what's he do? He tariffs you. And if you need Trump, what do? He extorts you. Uh, anyway, just a little background, diverse or non-diverse. But yeah, Dr. Clark was a real stand-up person. She obviously cares, and I always think it's a little special when someone comes, goes away to school and raise a family, and comes back to their hometown and wants to contribute. And she's I just think she's an excellent person. And another thing, I keep talking on and on about honesty, integrity, and credibility and all that. And at this point, everybody knows how important it is to be believable, to have your word mean something, right? And we both know people that whose word you could take to the bank, and other people you wouldn't, you might not, pee on it if you had to. So, her the sum total of her experiences really do make her. And like I said, she was on a council in Tustin for what, 8 years, maybe more. She's more than ready, and she deserves your vote just because she cares. I mean, she cares and she gets involved. And we talked a little bit about collaborative leadership and all that, which is all well and good. But it's like we said, ultimately, you set the tone from the top down. And uh, how can I put this? It's just so refreshing to actually have people of honesty and integrity. For instance, does anyone doubt? And let's revisit the interview. It was like 20 minutes long, more or less. And my question to you is this: do you perceive Dr. Clark is and told the truth throughout the whole interview and does what she says she's going to do? I think, you know what, I could back that up. I think that she's entirely credible. I think, and don't forget, credibility means what? Worthy of being believed. And I just can't stress that enough. She is worthy of being believed, and her experiences and the sum total of her character is such that she deserves the opportunity to be mayor in Tustin. And I will tell you, she really deserves it at this point in time, because Tustin is really they could just explode in under her. You have this huge air base at Tustin. I forgot what they call it. But anyway, there was a huge hangar fire, and there was like toxic stuff on the ground. It took years to clean up. I think they're just getting through cleaning up, and so this huge piece of land has become available, and it's within the Tustin city limits. And ladies and gentlemen, this is a huge piece of property for California. And if there's one thing Californians need, it's kind of housing and the place to put it. And you could do a could I mean, you could have your own little, like, even though it's downtown Tustin, you can have your own little business park headquarters. I mean, it's a nice piece of property. So let's if you are in Tustin, California, if you're a registered Tustin voter, let's get the checkbox next to Dr. Clark's name. I think that she's the most capable person to lead Tustin to a new prosperous period, and it's going to be even more exciting. And she's going to get even more credit for doing so, because she's doing it at a time when I predict that Trump is going to be like Herbert Hoover. He is. We are just screaming towards another Great Depression. The market's been saying it for a while. You've got to watch out. It's a little too frothy and all that. And excuse me, with that current orange tinged baboon in the White House, we he just, we are we are rudderless. It was funny. Dr. Clark was she graduated from the Tustin High School, and they were the Tustin Tillers. And a tiller, actually, I guess it could be two things. I only thought of one, but a tiller is what you steer a boat with. That little stick that comes up from the back, that's a tiller. And the one, if you want something that extends, that would be a hiking stick, but that's besides the point. Or I guess you could be a tiller, like you could till the fields, but that would be a real drag. I'd much rather, have a tiller in my hand and maybe a maybe a little cold beer if it's a kind of a warm day, or if it's just a day that ends in Y and I happen to be on the boat. Okay, guys. So, what are your thoughts about Dr. Clark? So, give us a call 949-629-3820. Did she make the case? I think she did. She was clearly credible. And guys, I got to go over the Latin thing with you again. Credibilis means worthy of being believed. And like when the White House comes up with a casualty number, and then you go, well, that's not right. And then the real number comes out. It goes like from 18 to 600. Uh, so do you believe those people? No, you don't believe them. The word is not worthy of being believed. They're inconsistent. It's just all the things that people lie about. And if anyone thought anything negative about Dr. Clark, please let me know because I was hugely impressed. Uh, and it's people can kind of laugh at hurricanes and all that, but like I say, I'm from Charleston, South Carolina. I know how bad those things can be, and to ride it out with home damage is bad enough. But Dr. Clark lost everything. I mean, clothes, everything. Can you imagine having to rebuild from that? Uh, and she did. And now that she rebuilt, she rebuilt and kind of led by example as to how to rebuild and how to choose what's important in life. And I took away that was her whole reasoning for being on the city council of Tustin and running for mayor. She just cares. And like I said, you can contrast that with guess who, and how that orange tinged baboon manages to get a vote. I will never know. Uh, but I urge everyone to look a little look a little widely, and there really are a lot of extremely capable people that we as Democrats are so lucky to have. We really do have an abundance of riches in the candidate department. And I said it's what 98 days and counting, so we'll know how things shake out fairly soon. Oh, but back to Hoover and Trump. I mean, let's say the tech guys cut 140,000 jobs, and strangely enough, that was not on the front page of the New York Times, and I was a little shocked at that. It was on the front page of the Financial Times from London. 140,000 jobs. Now, Dr. Clark is running for mayor from Tustin, and their population was 83,000. So this is like almost double the city of Tustin gets laid off in one industry. And so you can stay tuned for more, but it's just not. Things are more than a little tenuous right now. And by the way, how about this new Trump tariff deal? Uh, you know, uh, you think you have a deal, and then you don't. You just it's tariff time again. It's like no, it's not. You have uh, some mental block that you just can't get beyond. And the truth of the matter is, it's just a bad idea. It was just proven and by every reputable economist, which meant it was okayed by what's his name, Peter. I was from UCI, the economist, and maybe Larry Kudlow. Those are about the only two people that would. Peter Navarro. Thank you, Peter Navarro. And so yeah, those are the only two guys that thought this was a tariffs were a good idea. And what can you say? At this point, I've started to assume that there's a little cerebral arteriosclerosis. Didn't know I knew a big word like that, did you? Cerebral arteriosclerosis, which is hardening of the arteries in the brain. And while it's ordinarily not much to laugh about, uh, when you've got a corrupt president falling asleep in cabinet meetings, you tend to notice those kind of things. Uh, uh, and just out of curiosity, when was the last time anybody believed Trump at anything? Thanks. Yeah, I thought. I think that would answer would be like eternity, maybe, because I mean, the guy just can't. If you asked him what day it was, he'd say Thursday, regardless. Uh, but the important, I kind of digress and all that, just because I cannot believe that the Trump is actually the president of the United States for the second time. Uh, and I said, every every Republican vote is responsible for this. And please, I love when people tell me I voted for Trump reluctantly. I'm like, well, let me ask you about that reluctantly. Did you pull the lever like, I don't know, a third of the way? Did you pull it halfway? Or did you actually pull the lever all the way to the other side and vote for Trump? And, of course, they get a little testy with me at that point, but, you can see the point I'm making. And I'll go ahead and mention another point I had occasion to make with an older guy. He's like 85, and he voted for Trump. And he's from Riverside, successful business guy. Uh, and I asked him, why'd you do it? Wasn't January 6th enough? What did he do after that convinced you he would be good at this job? So of course, when someone's 85, you can't rag on them that much. Uh, but then he goes into the fallback position of, geez, I thought he'd be a better businessman. And well, about that businessman, let's follow that train of thought for a minute. And would you believe I just so happened to have had a 4-page printout of Trump financial failures or bungles or whatever you want to call it. And so I'd pull them out. Of course, they start with like the airlines and the Las Vegas stuff. And the pattern's always the same. He buys stuff, loads it up with debt, and then files bankruptcy. I mean, he just does this to a T. So I had to ask my friend, well, let me ask, which one of these 6 or 7 bankruptcies was enough to convince you that he was a financial genius? I mean, I'm kind of curious. Or was it all the failures put together that you figured, geez, he couldn't mess up again? Well, obviously you're wrong about that, and I still cannot imagine how anybody voted for the guy after January 6th. So we can only hope that justice will be coming. And if you guys are interested in that kind of stuff, if you guys think Jack Smith is an honorable, decent lawyer, then stand up. Let's throw the bomb or throw his enablers out. Every single Republican in Congress that stood up for him is, another reason to lose a vote. I would say at this point, if you are only in the upper tax bracket and got a huge tax cut because Trump didn't mind adding another $4 trillion to the deficit, maybe if I got enough of a tax cut to buy, I don't know, a Rolls convertible, maybe I might vote for him in that case. But it's just astounds me, ladies and gentlemen. So anyway, let's take care of this once and for all. Even though we may not be able to take care of it once and for all, we have we really don't have much of an idea what's going to happen the closer we get to November 2nd, do we? We're assuming the worst, and I mean, would it be beyond Trump to have the 1,600 people that he pardoned from January 6th reunite at the White House and maybe surround it and protect him? And maybe do that with like the heavy duty assault weapons that they all have in their hovels in Idaho, or you know what? It could be a hovel in Idaho, or I know a guy on Lido Island in Newport, and he has he bought the place next door to him just so he could have a place for his guns. I mean, people on Lido would do that for a car, but this is just, guns are generally bad. When I was growing up, you had the respectable hunters, and I don't have a problem with those guys. As much as I kind of don't like things that make loud noises and put holes in people. I think that's a Kurt Vonnegut description of some sort. But yeah, if it makes a loud noise and it puts a hole in someone, you may want to, exercise a little discretion with that thing, which is, again, just even makes the random shootings that occur daily all too sad. And let's remember, we can absolutely do something with that. What you don't need, and everybody, I refuse to believe that any given NRA member really finds it okay to have an AR-16 or AR-15 or, Uzi or whatever those high-powered guns are. Uh, Guys, I'm sorry to divert a little bit on that. I just, guns, I just think are a really, really sore point. But the overall, I do want to tell you two other things real quick. You know, as Trump and I don't know if he's figured out the limits of his power or if he's just like a kid with a toy and just put it down. But the General Dan Kane, at least you would hope that he gives some hope that there's an adult in the room most of the time, whether it actually is or not, what he actually is able to get across to the president. This president is a rather unique individual for lots of reasons, but the biggest reason are lack of intelligence and lack of intellectual curiosity. I mean, he just has no interest in anything if it does not put a dollar in his pocket. And I used to think that the most dangerous place in LA or was between Gloria Allred and a camera. But now I think the most dangerous place in DC is between Donald Trump and a dollar. Yeah, I mean, God only knows what he'd do for that. So guys, oh, and another thing, as we talk about the big tech guys spending cajillion dollars on data centers, I think we can actually come close to putting a number on that. I think the meta target number to build a data center is 12 to 15 billion dollars and all the water your state ever had. Uh, think about that. And not only is 12 to 15 billion dollars a nice little piece of change, but there aren't a whole boatload of people that can build these things. I mean, can you imagine the intricacies of designing a data center? Uh, I mean, this is going to take more power than cities. And each one of these guys is pouring a cajillion dollars into this because they know whoever catches on is going to go big time. And again, this, depending on the temperament of the White House, and let me, while we're talking about that for a second, when you govern by temperament or govern by whim, that helps nobody. And when you govern by whim, that means you're kind of like not governing by information. And I'm not exactly sure about this, but I think that when you kind of ignore information, and that kind of makes you ignorant, right? The guy just you just can't process information. So it's going to be a wild few days. You've got him, tariffing a verb, tariffing by whim. I mean, guys, we deserve better. Everybody deserves better than this guy. And, not only do we deserve better, uh, but how about, the people that really struggle, that had their benefits taken away? And just, I cannot understand how anybody that uh, has a shred of Christianity in them can do this. I say hardly a biblical scholar, but my best recollection is that Jesus would probably say something like, wash the unwashed, house the homeless, feed the hungry, uh, cure the ill. And I wish I saw that in these guys, but I just see just the opposite. And and which means that when somebody's actions are inconsistent with their words, that they just might not be worthy of, you guessed it, being believed. They have no credibility. And I'm also curious. I really wish I could chat with that woman that follows them around with the good news stories, because you would have to imagine that as the day wears on, that the number of outlets with anything good to say about the president are like slim and none, and Slim's out of town. So, but I would love to interview that woman and ask her, like, how far down the food chain does she have to go to satisfy Trump, or something. He probably doesn't care as long as somebody alleges something positive about him. He'll be happy as a clam. And guys, is that any way to run the country? No. I tell you, Joe Biden understood how to run a country. Kamala Harris understood how to run a country. And, guys, it wasn't that long ago. A matter of fact, I remember it like it was yesterday. I think Kamala Harris was one of those uh, driven people who said something like, I can't wait to come to work. I will come in with a to-do list. Trump will come in with a retribution list. And it's like Americans were shown a good guy and shown a monster, and they picked the monster. This is it was just it's a horrible statement on society, but it's even more of an indictment on the fact that people were bamboozled. The whole Trump's financial geniuses garbage, and just utterly false. And I guess that would be rightfully called a hoax. The notion that he's any sort of a financial genius, or whatever it is. As it stands now, the guy has a new toy to play with in the Qatari jet. Oh, and I have no idea what it actually costs to fly a jet to Turkey and back, like Air Force One. But I will bet you that Trump is the only president that would have two Air Force Ones flown to and from D.C. To Ankara, or Ankara, Istanbul, wherever it was. So yeah, the guy, if it's everything for him and nothing for you, you guys are beginning to see how this plays out. Everything from him and nothing for you. And let's try this one more time. Everything for him and nothing for you. I hope that gets through. Kind of like the woman on CNN a while back. She was being interviewed, and the CNN reporter goes up and says something like, "Oh, and how many times did you vote for President Trump?" And the woman says, "3 times. I must be an idiot." And, of course, you can't, you don't want to dwell on that, but truer words were never spoken. She was fooled, deceived. She didn't sound like a true believer. So let's hope that every person like that is coming around and will see the wisdom and see the light and see just the good things the Democrats bring. I mean, can you imagine, instead of this lost time with Trump, what if we were really working on Joe Biden's Green Deal? What if we were building EV infrastructure? And I think as a general proposition, uh, good people create, bad people destroy. And when you look at it on that simple viewpoint, Biden, let's just say we know where everybody lives. Biden built good things. Trump builds what he wants for himself. And you know why? Because it's all for him and nothing for you. Why should he get a $500 million ballroom and you get your hospital room closed, or local hospital closed? Because it's all for me and none for you. Uh, and guys, if you think it's going to get any better, I really think that maybe before Trump leaves office, I think you could have somebody trying to set up like Hoovervilles on the mall, and this we need to make a real statement about this homeless stuff. And before I go, my throat's starting to get a little worn out. Even though it was nice having Dr. Clark on it, my throat isn't as bad as it usually gets about this time. Uh, but anyway, I'm glad to hear my. I'm really glad that my throat held out this long. I was able to, and hope I was more or less mildly entertaining. God only knows these days. Oh, and we've got open line for a little bit before we go 949-629-3820. So let us know what's your thought. Are you from Tustin? Are you an Orange Countyan? Or are you? Oh, we also ought to give a shout out to Democrats abroad, Scotland and London, I think. I had chatted with those guys about coming on a set thing on Friday where I feature different Democrat clubs. And those two guys were really, really the first ones to reply and were super. So we're actually looking forward to having a little international flavor. If we probably don't deserve that, but we'll take it anyway we can get it. Okay, guys, it's about one ish or so, and I got an appointment at 2. My throat's starting to give out, so I think it just might be that time to what should we do? Should we make like a tree and leave? Or